can try and win championships, and that's what it's all about. When you look from the outside and you watch this team, I know we're going to have a real good, solid hockey team this year.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined right here by my co-host, Eric Wilson. Today, we're discussing a huge, massive, big nuts win from the Rangers over the Las Vegas Golden Knights. A big win. The kids propelled them to victory, 5-1 victory, improving the record to 13-10-5. This team was kind of in a bleak status in recent weeks. Recently, we were even talking about should Gallant be on the hot seat or not. Well, a statement victory over the Golden Knights at least cools off his seat for now and has us reinvigorated, having us with hope in the Rangers once again here. What a win, and we're here to discuss it, react to it. But before we really dive into the meat and potatoes of this game, Eric, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good. I always say the day after a New York Rangers win is always going to be a good day. I like the energy you're bringing today after drinking that Celsius. But, let's get right into it.
Yeah, let's get into it, of course. So the main storyline coming out of this game is the lines that changed. The lines were changed up pretty significantly. And Eric, I don't know if you have those pulled up, but I know that you saw them yesterday and we discussed them, and you were really excited by the lines. And so was I. I thought that they were a really nice configuration. Now, obviously, Gallant has switched up the lines quite a bit in most recent games. They've changed pretty much on a nightly basis. But going into this game, I think that he found something special with these lines that really helped propel the Rangers to victory. So let's go ahead and dive into them. Eric, I want to hear your take on last night's lines.
I think they were perfect, and there's evidence there to prove that after a 5-1 win with 10 different skaters putting up a point last night. And the first line is the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen. Lafreniere, Zibanejad, and Kakko. It's like, oh my God, this groundbreaking idea. You put these two young kids on the top line playing with Zibanejad, and they start producing. It's like, who could have ever seen this? It's like, stop burying them in the bottom six, let them get that first line ice time, and good things are going to happen. And then the second line is also pretty good too, with Panarin, Hedl, and Gaudreau. Panarin had 3 assists last night. Hedl scored a goal. Pretty sure Gaudreau got an assist as well. So the top six was really buzzing last night. Pretty sure, Zibanejad had 2 goals either. Every single person in the top 6 got at least 1 point last night. And then, it kind of does suck to see Kreider and Trocheck playing down on the third line, not really getting the ice time that they deserve, but, they're still producing. Trocheck had an assist as well. Kreider, I don't think he got a point, but I know he looked really well out there last night. Jimmy Vesey also looked pretty good. And then just, the fourth line is the fourth line. They're not going to get that much ice time, not going to be able to produce that much, but they didn't cost us any goals, and that's really all that matters. So I was really a big fan of these lines, and I kind of hope that Gallant does decide to stick to these over the next few games.
Yeah, I think that these lines might be the spark that the Rangers needed. This might be the perfect configuration, kind of as you mentioned. Love Panarin staying on the second line, but Hedl and Gaudreau up there. Now, Gaudreau is a player that we've talked pretty highly of lately because he's been playing really well. Very happy for him to see him go all the way up from the fourth to the second line, get that top 6 ice time, and produce. Got a point. Played some pretty good hockey last night with Filip Hedl and Panarin on the second line. But that first line, as you mentioned, Kakko, I knew he scored a goal. Zibanejad with 2. Lafreniere also got a point. They're playing really well together, those guys, and I want to see this continue. I want Gallant to keep these lines going out there and allow those 3 to really mesh and gel together and see where this could take us, because I think that first line could be really lethal and could be the catalyst to a turnaround for the Rangers season here. Now, the third line, Kreider, Trocheck, all the way down there with Vesey. That is surprising. Kreider was on the first line earlier this season, obviously with Vesey as well, though, who was also playing on the first line. Trocheck was signed to be the 2C, the 2 center. And so seeing him all fall down to the third line with Kreider and Vesey is definitely a shock, but it paid off. The Rangers got a big win over a really good hockey team. So maybe these are the lines, despite the fact that some of these players are getting paid a lot to be playing down on the third line. I think that might be the best case scenario right here, is to roll with these lines until maybe they stall out, but I don't think they will. I really like these lines, but what are your thoughts really on seeing the guy that we signed this offseason being a big 2C falling down to the third line?
I don't think it's too much of a shock, especially because, Trocheck has played really well this season so far, but then again, so has Hedl. We were always wondering, how is Hedl going to break out when he's stuck down there on the bottom 6? But he somehow found a way to do it. When he's healthy, he's putting up points and he's playing really well. And over the last couple of games, the last few weeks, we've kind of seen Hedl and Trocheck switch back and forth from the second to the third, respectively. So, does it kind of suck to see a guy we're paying that much money to be down on the third line right now? It's like kinda, but at the same time, I think it's like a positive. We have like so many good players that we need to keep them down on the third line. That's like proper depth right there. I'd rather have a guy like Vincent Trocheck running the bottom six than someone like Ryan Strome, who we know is just going to bring us down. So I really can't complain. It's a shame that he has to be down there, but overall, I think it's a positive thing.
Yeah, and I'm gonna completely agree with that. Seeing those guys, Kreider and Trocheck, move down there, not really a big deal to me, because I think that the production that they're putting up in the bottom six far outweighs the production that they were putting up in the top six. So I'm excited to see if this continues, if this is a trend that Gerard Gallant is going to keep continuing. But again, this was a big one for Gallant, because we were talking in our last episode about should he be on the hot seat. Now, I know that they got a win in their game prior to this one, but the games prior to that, a lot of losing. The Rangers were losing a lot of games during the month of November, and things were looking a little bit bleak there. And so for this game to happen, Gerard Gallant to go out there, reconfigure these lines, and find what we now think might be the perfect configuration to go out there and get this clutch win over Las Vegas. This is huge for Gerard Gallant. Eric, do you feel like his seat is completely cooled off now, and he just kind of bought his way into the rest of the season? No need to question him anymore, or do you still need to see a little bit more, keep the winning alive, or are you feeling like this is the moment where Gerard Gallant is going to turn the team around?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can make a decision like that off of just one good game. This could just been like good luck. Vegas, as good as they are, we're missing two key players, and Jack Eichel and Alex Pietrangelo, so they weren't as good as they usually should have been. I still think that we did deserve the win. We played better than Vegas overall, but you do also got to factor that in. I think it's really just going to continue to depend on the next few games. We came off of a 3-game losing streak. We're currently on a 2-game winning streak, which is a good sign, but 2 games is just 2 games out of 82. So we really need to see if this is an actual turnaround or if we're just having a streak of good luck. And you look at the next few games that we got coming up. The next game is tomorrow against Colorado, the defending Stanley Cup champions. I know they're kind of riddled with injuries right now as well. I took a look at their lines that they were playing with last night. There's not as well as they should be. So hopefully we'll be able to pick up a win there. But then you got a couple of hard games coming up against Jersey, who's like number 1 in the league right now. And then Toronto, who is also, I'm pretty sure, a top 10 team in the league. So I really think it's just going to be the next couple of games coming up that are really just going to determine, are we actually back? Are we getting this momentum and going to be just like the team we were last season? Or did we just get lucky with a win and then another win over a team who was missing like their best forward and their best defenseman?
Yeah, I think that the next few games, again, as you mentioned, some really crucial matchups against some good teams coming up here. That's going to be the deciding factor, right? That will prove whether this was a flash in the pan or whether the Rangers are back and they're turning things around. And I'm entitled to believe, or inclined to believe rather, that they are back and they are turning things around, because what a performance from the kids last night. And I think that's the main thing. Last season, the catalyst to success, the reason the Rangers made it as far into the postseason as they did, was the kid line. Now, the kids were playing really well at the end of last year, especially in the postseason, got us that far. But this year, there's been a little bit of a lack of synergy with those kids. They've been kind of split up across many different lines. The kid line wasn't intact last night, but they did have 2 of the 3 on one of the lines. And so I think what we're seeing here is that the key to this team winning games is if those kids play well. Kakko, Lafreniere, Hedl, if those guys are on their A game and they're getting a lot of ice time, that's when the Rangers are winning games. Unfortunately, the veterans like Zibanejad, like Kreider, sometimes they have big games, but the Rangers still lose anyway. And I think that if they have a big game, but the kids don't, it doesn't really mean much. It's the kids are the key to this team for some reason. If they're not playing well, the Rangers are just not playing well. So, Eric, how excited are you to see all of the kids get involved in the point scoring last night and to get some really big performances out of the guys like Hedl, Kakko, and Lafreniere?
I mean, it's very exciting. It's huge. I would go as far as to say as last night's game against Vegas was our best game of the season. You could make the argument for the opening night against Tampa, but I think that this game held more weight. Is definitely more important. It's kind of like a season-defining game right here. But to see the kids step up and also see the veterans step up and the bottom 6, and the defense played great. Igor only let up 1 goal. The defensemen were putting up points. Everyone was doing what they needed to do. And Gallant created these amazing lines, which I hope that we're going to see. So it's very exciting to see. And I really am inclined to believe that this is a turnaround for the rest of the season. I think we're going to keep it up. And, if we play like we played last night against Vegas every game, then hell yeah, we're going to make the playoffs and we're going to make a very deep run for that Stanley Cup. So So that's really all I can ask for, and that's what we got.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what we saw last season when the kids were playing that well and the kid line was taking over the NHL. The Rangers made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, of course, maybe a little bit of a lack of experience from the kids, you could argue, was one of the reasons that the Rangers didn't make it to the Stanley Cup Final. But another year under their belts, some new lines, some new players added to this team. Maybe the kids can keep that momentum going once we get into the postseason. And hopefully the Rangers can surpass what they accomplished last season rather than fail to execute again and disappoint. But it's also interesting to note here when we're talking about these lines, we were discussing, Kreider being down in the bottom six, Trocheck also being down in the bottom six. But the time on ice is interesting to take note of. So I don't think it's too much of a detriment to these guys to be playing on those lower lines because Kreider still played 17 minutes compared to 14 and a half from Capo Caco, right? And you're seeing Trocheck with 18 minutes, and you're seeing Hedl with only 16 minutes. So these veterans are still getting the majority of the ice time. They're getting more time on the ice, but I think that the synergy between the players on the lines is what's really important to take note of here. Seeing Hedl playing with the guys that he's playing with and Kako playing with the guys that he's playing with. I mean, Kako with Zibanejad has been a pretty nice pairing all season long when they've been on the lines together. But Lafreniere added to that mix might have been the difference maker there. And Hedl in that top six with Panarin and Goodrow making the surprise jump up to the top six. I think that's the key difference here. But Eric, what are your thoughts on that? The ice time from these players and how that might affect what these lines look like going forward?
I mean, the time on ice is something that I didn't even pick up on last night when we were watching the game. But I think it's a really good strategy that we've seen here because, most teams and what we've been doing for most of the season so far is just having the top six and the bottom six. But I like the strategy of just having a top nine and then a fourth line where, you kind of just rotate through the first three lines pretty much evenly. And that's something that you can do when you have a team that's has as much depth as the Rangers right here. Pretty much every single player on those first three lines is a quality player that I'm comfortable with being on the ice for a large portion of the time. And then you kind of just use the fourth line to give them rest in between. So it's a strategy that worked. It might be a little tiring in the long run if you keep doing that, giving most of your forwards, 3/4 of your forwards, even ice time the entire time. So I don't know if it's a good long-term strategy, but if you're going up against a team that's as good as Vegas and you need a really big offensive push to take them down, then I think it's a really good thing that you should try out because, we know it works. And you go up against worse teams, and you just have the top six and the bottom six, let most of your guys rest. And it's just pretty much stuff like that. So I kind of like that strategy from Gallant, and I would be in support of it going forward.
Yeah, and another thing that I want to know here before we wrap this one up is some of the healthy scratches, right? So Vitaly Kravtsov not playing in last night's matchup, Johnny Brodzinski playing instead. I was not familiar with Johnny Brodzinski before this game. Honestly, it's a player that I didn't really know of, but he played last night on the fourth line with Sammy Blais and Gauthier. But taking a look at Kravtsov, right? What a fall from grace this guy's had because this summer we thought that this was going to be that return season for Kravtsov. He was training with Panarin. They had great chemistry during training camp, and we thought that it might be a decent bounce back season in store for him. Unfortunately, injuries, illnesses, everything that could go wrong for Kravtsov has gone wrong for Kravtsov. And he scored recently. Within the last week, he put in a goal, but still not enough. And I got to say, I respect Gallant for making that decision to say, listen, Kravtsov, not performing well enough. I know you just scored a goal, but that still isn't enough. You just haven't been it for us so far this season. Going ahead, making him the healthy scratch and taking a chance on someone else. What are your thoughts on Vitaly Kravtsov, what this healthy scratch means for his future, and how Gerard Gallant handled that decision?
I mean, Kravtsov's future is the biggest question mark in the NHL right now. I have no idea how to even interpret it. But, I like what you said, respect to Gerard Gallant. Just because you scored one goal doesn't mean you've just solidified your spot in the lineup. You're still going to be subbed in and out depending on what needs to happen. And, Ryan Carpenter also scratched tonight, Johnny Brodzinski in. I know Johnny Brodzinski. I don't know too much about him. I know he's a big guy. He kind of reminds me of Ryan Reeves a little bit, just less aggressive, and he's a center. So just last thing I'm going to say is Brodzinski's been in the last 2 games, and we're on a 2-game winning streak. I don't know. Coincidence? I don't know. But if it's working and these lines are getting us wins, then, yeah, keep Kravtsov out, keep Carpenter out. You do what you got to do to get your wins, and this is what works, so stick to it.
Johnny Brodzinski, the key to the winning streak. Johnny Brodwinski? Johnny Brodwinski. I don't know. That might be the nickname. Maybe you guys got to clip that. That might be the new thing. Go crazy on Twitter with that one. Johnny Johnny Brodwinski. That's what I'm liking.
I don't like that.
And that's what I'm feeling. He doesn't like it, but I like it. And I like that the Rangers just came away with a huge 5-1 win over Las Vegas last night. Again, this could be a turning point in the season. This was a big victory for the Rangers. I actually agree with what you said. I think this is our best game of the season because, again, just with the Rangers and the spot that they were at, things were looking bleak. They were looking dim. And so to have Gerard Gallant switch up the lines in such an extreme fashion, go out there, the Rangers kick ass and get a win over one of the best teams in hockey, I think this is a defining moment for the Rangers 2022-23 season. And I'm excited to see where this team goes from here. And I think that they can only go up from here. So I'm really excited.
And before you just wrap it up, I just want to say, we've been talking about locker room problems for the Rangers. What's going on there? Is there like beef with each of the players and the coach? But I saw the clip last night from after the game where Keandre Miller passed off the Broadway hat to Mika Zibanejad. Everyone was clapping. Everyone was smiling. It looked like a happy locker room again. It almost brought a tear to my eye. So, that's all I got to say. The Rangers are back.
Happy tears. But I will say, you just said that, and so it brought up an idea in my head. And I don't want to be conspiracy theorizing too much here, but was Vitaly Kravtsov's ice time maybe the problem that had the players upset?
No,
maybe he wasn't pulling his weight and it was starting to upset some of the players.
I don't think so, because when Kravtsov did score that goal that we just mentioned a couple of minutes ago, the reactions from everyone on the ice was just like, it was extremely happy. Like Panarin like jumped in the air with joy when he scored. Like I felt like it was a proud moment, unless it was just like a really happy, like, thank God it finally happened. Like, who knows though?
Yeah, maybe that was too much speculating on my part, but it's interesting to note that the Rangers seem to have solved most of their issues within a week. They had a lot of locker room issues. Jacob Trouba was speechless in the post game, and there just seemed to be a lot of noise and chatter coming from that locker room, and none of it sounded good. But now things turned around. The lines changed up. Gerard Gallant cooled his seat, got some clutch wins, and it seems like the Rangers players are in much better spirits right now. So, again, looking ahead to the future, this is crunch time. This month of December is really important for an NHL team that has playoff aspirations, and that's what the Rangers have. They have Stanley Cup aspirations. So let's see how they can continue to build on this, see if this momentum can carry them far, get them into the postseason, and anything can happen there, right? So, of course, make sure to comment down below. What are your thoughts on last night's big win over Vegas? Huge win from the Rangers, and shout out to the kids for turning in an awesome performance. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you do not miss an episode. We'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Rangers.